Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
People love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
You are now entering the Stone Zone. I want to start the show by congratulating the Vista, New York Volunteer Fire Department on 85 years of continuous service, founded in 1941. My grandfather, my uncle, and my father all served as the voluntary chief of the Vista Volunteer Fire Department. My father was so proud of his service that we buried him in his chief's uniform. When my mother passed at age 91, she was the oldest living member of the Women's Auxiliary of the Vista Volunteer Fire Department. So I congratulate you tonight on your tradition, your dedication, your commitment to community since 1941. Meanwhile, Mayor Zoran Mamdani caught some real Italian heat today after releasing a map of the city's ethnic enclaves, include 30 places like Little Palestine, but somehow left out Little Italy. The map, called New York's Immigrant Enclaves, highlighted 30 areas across the 5 boroughs, ranging from Koreatown in Manhattan, Little Pakistan in Brooklyn, Little Yemen in the Bronx, but somehow left out Little Italy. Mike Crispy of the Italian American Civil Rights League joins us later to talk about that outrage, but he correctly said this is an attempt to erase Italian American culture. We'll get back to that a little later in the show. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump is taking the fight over birthright citizenship back to the Supreme Court. Birthright citizenship is, of course, a ruling by the Supreme Court last week that said that if a child was born on U.S. soil, despite the fact that the parents were not U.S. citizens, they were automatically a U.S. citizen. It is a substantial misreading of the 14th Amendment, and now President Trump has announced that he will ask the High Court to rehear it based on new developments. They moved to strike down his executive order restricting this automatic citizenship for people born in the United States to foreign nationals. The president pointed to reports of hospital billboards near the southern border and in Mexico advertising childbirth packages to foreign nationals. One South Texas hospital reportedly promoted deliveries starting at $3,950 for a natural birth and $5,525 for a C-section, just miles from a U.S.-Mexico border crossing. In a Truth Post social, President Trump warned that birthright citizenship is being marketed like a commercial service, with American citizenship effectively being sold to anyone willing to pay for delivery inside the United States. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has already called for investigation into the Mission Regional Medical Center that has been doing this advertising. Now, the hospital says the marketing materials are no longer in use and denies facilitating unlawful activity. But the larger problem here remains. American citizenship should be a sacred national inheritance, not a loophole, not a tourist package, and not a business model for hospitals or immigration brokers. These misinterpreted rules have made a mockery of our Constitution and have hastened the demographic demise of our country. President Trump is right for chastising the Supreme Court for getting this wrong. Either America controls the means of citizenship, or the open borders lobby turns it into another commodity for sale. President Trump should not stop until there's another hearing and the Supreme Court defends the rule of law against these illegal invaders. I think we're the first on radio last night to report that Maine Democrat Graham Plattner has suspended his U.S. Senate campaign after cascades of scandals became too much for even his own party to turn a blind eye towards. Plattner, who was once promoted as a left-wing progressive challenger to veteran Republican Senator Susan Collins, faced growing pressure to quit after Politico published an account from his former girlfriend, one Jennifer Racicot, who alleged that he came to her home uninvited and he raped her. After that report, prominent leftist Democrats, including Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, and Ro Khanna, threw him under the bus completely. Another woman, Lindsay Fifield, who previously made sexual misconduct allegations against Plattner in the New York Times, has also come forward with additional accusations. Plattner, of course, denies all of these allegations, calling them not real, and says that he and his wife are regular people caught in a political takedown. In a lengthy video, Plattner refused to take any responsibility for his actions, instead blaming the corporate media and political establishment, arguing that the accusations should not be the beginning of a process, but the end of it. But the political reality is clear. Democrats who lecture the country about morality, about women's rights, about how all women should be believed, and accountability are now scrambling to replace a candidate they were prepared to elevate. They said that we must believe all women and now have to live up to those words. Plattner insisted he could still beat Susan Collins, but he admitted that the fallout would make his campaign impossible to run. This leaves Maine Democrats scrambling to find a successor under a tight legal deadline, which I believe is by the 27th. Even with Plattner out of the picture, Democrats in Maine will have a tough time in the midterms, as the fallout from this scandal will be sure to sully them in November. But Republicans should not take too much solace. If we're going to hold Graham Plattner accountable, then we have to hold Congressman Corey Mills of Florida, a Republican, accountable. There are at least 2 instances of women accusing him of violence. He has an outstanding warrant of protection issued by a Florida judge. So we must have one standard, not 2. Meanwhile, Patriot U.S. Congressman from Tennessee, Tim Burchett, is demanding transparency in one of Washington's most sensitive unsolved cases. That would be the 2016 killing of Democrat National Committee staffer Seth Rich. Earlier this week, Burchett announced that he had formally asked the FBI Director Kash Patel to release all FBI records related to Seth Rich's desk. His office has said plainly that the American people deserve answers. Now, Rich was only 27 years old when he was shot and killed while walking home in Washington, D.C. in the early morning of July 10th, 2016. Police called it a botched robbery, but his ring, his watch, his cash, and his credit cards remained untouched, and the case remains unsolved nearly a decade later amongst a bevy of questions that have never come close to being answered. Rich's death became the center of intense public speculation after claims emerged that he may have been connected to the leaked Democrat National Committee emails published by WikiLeaks. It was proven in my trial, where the underlying thesis of the indictment against me that I had lied under oath, when in fact no statement or misstatement I made was material, because there was no Russian collusion to hide. And even Robert Mueller admitted in his long redacted but finally released final report that he found no evidence whatsoever that I had received any materials from WikiLeaks. Rich's death became the center of the speculation. Those claims remain disputed, but what is not disputed now is the FBI's handling of the records and what transpires next. Attorney Ty Clevenger spent years fighting through Freedom of Information Act requests in an attempt to get some semblance of transparency regarding this case. The FBI initially claimed it had no relevant records regarding Seth Rich, but later admitted it had more than 20,000 pages of potentially relevant material, along with Rich's work laptop and an image of his personal laptop. Now, Attorney Clevenger says more documents may have surfaced inside a previously concealed FBI room, though this has not been confirmed yet by the Bureau. Congressman Burchett will join us this Sunday on my show. The FBI must release all these documents. It's clear to anyone who's peered into the case of Seth Rich that he was likely murdered, perhaps as another name on the infamous Clinton kill list. Once again, there is no evidence of an online hack by the Democrat National Committee. That was one of the central pieces of the Russian collusion narrative. This is an important case that we are going to continue to follow. Meanwhile, CNN's newsroom may be bracing for a major impact as Paramount prepares to take over Warner Brothers. Discovery is a $101 billion deal, and the anxiety tells you everything. CNN's chief executive, Mark Thompson, recently told employees he could feel the tension in the room as the network faces its third ownership shakeup in 3 years. Now, personally, I don't get my news from CNN for the same reason I don't drink out of the toilet. But roughly 4,000 workers across CNN's global operations are waiting to see what the new bosses will do, with layoffs and major consolidation expected. But the real fear inside CNN is not economic, it's political. Staffers worry that Paramount CEO David Ellison may reshape the network, especially after President Trump and his allies openly welcome the new leadership at the left-leaning cable outlet. There may be a house cleaning that's in order, similar to what recently happened with CBS News. For years, CNN helped lead the corporate media's anti-Trump crusade, lecturing Americans about democracy while bleeding viewers and trust. Now, with Paramount also bringing CBS News under the same roof, where veteran journalist Barry Weiss and the Free Press have already rattled the old guard. Some insiders fear Weiss could eventually have influence over CNN and bulldoze the liberal status quo there. Others hope Thompson stays in charge and protects what he calls the network's credibility, means protecting the liberals from true accountability, because in actuality, CNN has zero credibility remaining. Millions of Americans stopped trusting CNN because they saw bias, double standard, and contempt for conservatives. All I can remember is that their camera was 25 feet outside my front door that fateful 2019 morning in which 29 heavily armed FBI agents swarmed my home to arrest me for the first time nonviolent process crime of allegedly lying under oath to Congress, a claim that never made any sense because, well, there was no Russian collusion to lie about, and as Robert Mueller's final report admitted, they found no evidence that I'd received anything whatsoever from WikiLeaks. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to the Stone Zone. We're going to be following CNN's developments, and we're going to be following the Seth Rich case very closely because both of these, of course, reflect back on the Russian collusion hoax. Meanwhile, we learned today that Special Counsel Jack Smith, in his Arctic frost investigation, was actually mishandling classified and top secret information during the investigation. An investigation into what he said was President Donald Trump's misuse and mishandling of classified and top secret information. Hypocrisy much? We'll be right back in the Stone Zone.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
He likes politics and he's a professional at the highest level. Roger Stone. Where's Roger?
Is the Stone Zone. Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?
Here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. Again, Mayor Zoran Mamdani kicked up a firestorm today by releasing a New York City immigrant enclave map, which seems to hit every ethnic group across the city except for Italians, Irish, and Jewish people. Mike Crispy from the Italian American Civil Rights League joins us in just a few minutes to talk about the fact that Italians' Mecca, Little Italy, one of the most important places in the story of Italian immigration, was left off the mayor's map. Meanwhile, across the country, there's a populist backlash that's growing into these flock license plate reading cameras, and the backlash is no longer theoretical. It can be declared a real thing. In Houston, now multiple cameras have been found cut down or knocked down, including near Washington Avenue, Westcott, Memorial Park. The police are investigating. While Flock, the company, condemns the damage as illegal vandalism, that is true. Destroying public equipment is not the answer, nor do we recommend it. But these are the sort of actions that become inevitable when the people's rights are being eviscerated. Flock cameras record license plates, vehicle details, and travel patterns. Then they store that data in searchable databases used by the police. Many question the constitutionality of this under the Fourth Amendment. Supporters say the technology helps recover stolen cars, locate kidnapping victims, and solve violent crimes. but the cost is a surveillance grid that tracks ordinary Americans who haven't been accused of any crime. In other words, we're trading our essential liberty for the illusion of safety. This is exactly what the Founding Fathers warned us against. This is a fight nationwide. In Virginia, a man faces multiple felony charges after allegedly damaging flock cameras. Privacy advocates have donated to his legal defense. In Newport, residents packed a town hall to oppose keeping the cameras in place permanently. In Arlington, Virginia, cameras were spray painted. In Milwaukee, a detective has been charged with allegedly misusing flock data to track people for his personal reasons. This is precisely our concern. Once government and private tech companies collude to build massive surveillance systems, the abuse is not hypothetical. It's just a matter of when and what to extent it occurs. We should always support law enforcement, and we don't advocate any action against the cameras. That would be illegal. But we also demand constitutional limits, transparency, and warrants where it's appropriate. We need better trained police to stop crimes. We don't know police manpower placed by a surveillance camera system that spies on the American people. We must never accept any excuse that leads us to embrace Big Brother. So we'll be following this flock camera issue very closely. Once again, coming up on the Stone Zone momentarily, Mayor Zoran Mamdani has really kicked off quite a firestorm in his map, highlighting ethnic areas across the city, such as Koreatown in Manhattan, Little Pakistan in Brooklyn, Little Yemen in the Bronx. But he left out Little Italy, and that brought a stinging rebuke and a lot of activity online. This is not just pertaining to Italian Americans. It also pertains to a number of the other important ethnic enclaves within New York City. For example, Italians who lived in the Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, or Bensonhurst in Brooklyn, or Howard Beach in Queens, or southern Staten Island. They're not on the mayor's map. Then, of course, you have the Irish Americans, who still very prevalent in Woodlawn Heights in the Bronx, for example, once known as Little Ireland. Western portions of Rockaway Peninsula in the Queens, known as the Irish Riviera. To address all of this, coming up, Mike Crispy joins us from the Italian American Civil Rights League. You're going to want to hear that, so don't go away.
Is the Stone Zone. Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?
Here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. In a story that has kicked up more dust than anything I've seen in some time, Mayor Zoran Mamdani released something he called New York City's Immigrant Enclaves map. Now, this map included Little Palestine in Manhattan, Koreatown in Manhattan, Little Pakistan in Brooklyn, Little Yemen in the Bronx. It also included Little Africa, Little Poland, but one community that it did not recognize was the original Little Italy. That brought an immediate rebuke from the Italian American Civil Rights League, and joining us now to discuss it is the chairman of that organization, Mike Crispy. Mike, welcome into the Stone Zone.
Roger, always an honor to be with you, sir. Thank you for having me on.
Just reading from this statement that you put out earlier today, which got very wide circulation, you said, Little Italy is sacred ground. It is where Italian immigrants came with nothing, worked hard, opened shops, raised families, built churches, fed the city, and helped New York City be what it is today. As you, I think, correctly said, this isn't about just being left out. This is a purposeful effort to erase the history of the Italian American community.
Well, you say it perfectly, Roger, is that Italian Americans have been an instrumental part of New York City since the late 1800s, since the early 1900s. We built the Empire State Building. We dug the subway system. We have been instrumental in our culture, our cuisine, our entertainment, our art. Everything of the Italian-American culture has been woven into the New York City culture. And when our Italian ancestors came here, they did so wanting to become a part of America. They wanted to contribute to the greater good. They left their homeland. They came to New York City. They embraced American culture. They had American pride. They adopted American customs. And it is a shame that Zoran is doing what he's doing, and he hates Italian Americans, and he's acting like this because we stand for everything that he is against. That is coming to a place, assimilating, working hard, doing it the right way, not making excuses, not looking for handouts, and contributing and standing on your own 2 feet. That is the antithesis of what Zoran ran on and what he believes, and that is why, Roger, he very specifically, very deliberately left Little Italy off that map. He's been against the Italians multiple times. This is just yet another example of his treachery.
Yeah, I noticed that the well-known writer and blogger Chris Rufo, who's been in the Stone Zone, posted a picture of Zoran Mamdani flipping the bird at the statue of Christopher Columbus in New York City, insisting that it be taken down. Yep. We've seen this across the country. It is, in my view, a willful effort to erase our culture, erase our history. When I say our, yes, I am half Italian. I'm Italian and Hungarian. I'm Italian from the waist down, and proud of it. But this is exactly what is going on here. But it's not just Italians. That's what was interesting. Around 11% of New Yorkers today are Italian Americans, but over 4 million Italians immigrated to New York City between 1880 and 1920. Little Italy, of course, is located in Manhattan, but you have other heavily Italian enclaves like Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, Bensonhurst in Brooklyn, Howard Beach in Queens, southern Staten Island. None of them seem to be listed in the mayor's map, but the neighborhood known as Little Palestine, that's on the map. And then there are the Irish, about 4.4% of New York City residents today, but 2 million Irish people immigrated to the United States between 1851 and 1860 after the Great Potato Famine. And there are still major enclaves of Italian Americans in Woodlawn Heights in the Bronx, which was once known as Little Ireland, and the western portion of Rockaway Peninsula in Queens, known then as the Irish Riviera. Notice that they're also missing here. So I think there's something larger here at foot. And there's no mention whatsoever of the Jewish neighborhoods in the city. Yep. This is part of that larger effort to erase us as a people.
Yes, Roger. I mean, you pointed out perfectly. The groups who have contributed to New York City historically are the ones that he's leaving out, and these third worldist groups that he is highlighting in this, enclave immigrant map. Nobody's heard of Little Palestine. Nobody's heard of Little Pakistan, but he points these out and he ignores other groups, and that is very deliberate. And the Christopher Columbus statue, him flipping off the statue, it's amazing because Italian Americans take so much abuse for Christopher Columbus, and people are referencing what Christopher Columbus did in the year 1492, saying that he was a savage. Well, a lot of people were savages in 1492. Nobody's arguing the tedious merits of other figures for other holidays. It only seems that Italian Americans come under fire for Christopher Columbus. The bottom line is that he is a symbol for our heritage, and it is not up to other people to say that he needs to be removed, and Italian Americans need to comply with the will of Ugandans like Zoran Mamdani, who are telling us what our holidays should be named and should not. If it was any other group other than Italians being told that, it would be dismissed as racist, out of pocket. But Zoran can do that to Italians, and he can, as you pointed out, Roger, ignore Irish people, Jewish people, and other groups that have built New York City, have done all the work, who embraced all of the things that have made New York, New York. He's dismissing that. He's whitewashing it. I look at his press conferences. I look at his televised events. The people around him, all about, different types of groups coming together. But it seems like he excludes specific groups and only has other specific groups, particularly Middle Eastern and African groups around him, and any other group to him is not acceptable. It's the most racist thing of all. Zoran is totally showing who he is whenever he does these things, and it's become such a demonstrable trend.
Yeah, Little Italy is not just a memory or just a tourist stop. It remains a living center of Italian-American culture. The Feast of St. Gennaro still brings generations together. The Italian-American Museum preserves the stories of our families who came here. John Viola's Red Sauce Studios telling American stories through modern media from the heart of Little Italy. Of course, Baby John's favorite cannolis and family business on Mulberry Street. These are cultural landmarks, proof that Italian Americans are still here and still fighting to preserve our heritage. But it just seems that Mamdani can find room for every other fashionable progressive constituency, but somehow he can't find room for Little Italy. So I think you were quoted earlier today, Mike is saying, our culture is good enough for their photo ops, our food is good enough for their fundraisers, our neighborhoods are good enough for tourism dollars, but it comes time to recognizing the contribution of Italian Americans to this great country, they erase us.
100%. And Mulberry Street, to what you're saying, Roger, is still thriving. Italian-American businesses are still there. It still is the epicenter of our culture. We have our great friend, Baby John DeLutra, who has been there for 60 years, and there are still people who have been there, many of which who continue on these traditions. The Feast of San Gennaro, one of the greatest traditions in any city in the world, is in Little Italy, right there on Mulberry Street. So it is a place unlike any other, and for it to be completely ignored off the map is absolutely horrible.
So the Italian American Civil Rights League, which, by the way, folks, you can go to iacrl.org, iacrl.org. It's an all-volunteer nonprofit. There's no overhead. There's nobody making money. Everybody, I'm a member. Many of my friends of Italian American extraction are members. I even have some friends who aren't Italian who are members because they recognize the importance of the Italian experience. But that's iacrl.org if you're more interested. You've called on the mayor to correct the map, to apologize to Italian Americans, and to include these historic Italian American neighborhoods in any official city project recognizing immigrant heritage. Mike, I have to ask you the tough question. Do you think the mayor's going to do that?
You know, we are going to make the mayor do something, because the Italian American Civil Rights League, I'm pleased to announce on the show tonight, is that we are going to hold a rally on Mulberry Street in support of the Italian American community to show the mayor, not just obviously people are talking about it on social media, but to show him in real life in New York City that there are thousands of Italian Americans who demand an answer for what he's doing. So we are going to have a Save Mulberry Street, Save Little Italy rally right there. It's going to be announced very soon. That'll be on iacrl.org. We're going to hold that rally, and we are expecting thousands of Italian Americans to show up in defiance of this mayor who has given us the cold shoulder, who has not reacted, but he cannot deny the will of the people. And we have thousands of people who are going to be there, Italians and non-Italians. You make a good point, Roger. We're going to have many non-Italians there standing in solidarity with us. He will not be able to ignore that. So stay tuned, because we are going to have an epic rally there to show him and show the world that Italian Americans are very much present in Little Italy, and Little Italy very much exists right there in the heart of Manhattan.
Mike, do you have any doubt whatsoever that it's only a short matter of time before they try to remove the statue of Christopher Columbus?
Oh, well, I mean, Columbus Circle, I think he's going to 100% try to change the name of Columbus Circle. He's already talked about it. He's given the middle finger, as you point out, and that's going to be another line in the sand that we will not cross. If he tries to remove the statue of Christopher Columbus and try to change the name of Columbus Circle and all these wacky things, we are going to have thousands of Italian Americans out there to make our voices heard. You know, that's why we started the IACRL, because an activist group, advocating on behalf of Italian Americans isn't something that's existed, but we've seen from Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and other figures out there, Zoran obviously now, that they have no problem chipping away, diminishing, and dismissing our people's contribution. So if they try to do that, the Italian American Civil Rights League will be organizing a massive demonstration there. We will make our voice heard. We have lawyers, we have publicists, we have people in the media, we have people in all sorts of professions who are going to donate their time and their resources to fight back against what is going on in Manhattan right now. So Italian-American contributions do not go unnoticed and do not go anywhere. We were here before Zoran, and Roger, let me tell you, we, the Italian-Americans, are going to be here hundreds of years after he is a long, distant memory. You could take that to the bank.
I think you will agree with this. What we're seeing here is a reflection of something much, much larger. You've seen the once great Democrat Party, once great Democrat Party of governors like Hugh Carey, for example. That party no longer exists. The Democrat Party in New York City and in New York State has been taken over by a radical, leftist, progressive, Marxist fringe, of which Mamdani is not just the state leader, but also the national leader. And therefore, old-fashioned Democrats, old-fashioned Catholic American Democrats really have no home in their own party anymore, can no longer, I think, win a statewide or a citywide primary. So this is the radical takeover of one of our two major parties by a radical fringe, but this is now the party of AOC, the party of Rashida Tlaib, the party of Bernie Sanders. Until yesterday, it was the party of Graham Plattner. This is the larger political and cultural phenomena that's taking place before our very eyes.
100%. President Trump said it the other day from the Oval Office, is that we are not running against the Democrat Party. We are running against a group of communists. They have taken over the party. The inmates are running the asylum. And, it's funny, Roger, a lot of people out there, old school Italian Americans, they were Democrats. They were working class Democrats who were out there in the 60s and the 70s voting for Democrats. Those days are long gone. Those are Trump voters now, 110%. But President Trump said it right, that we are no longer running against those types of Democrats. We are running against a different breed. We are running against a breed of American-hating lunatics who want to erase us off the map. And this is how they do it, through the symbolism, through the gestures, through the whitewashing. This is their strategy. It's in all of the communist playbooks to the letter of the law, and they are running that on us right now. And must we not fall asleep and let it happen to us? We got to wake up, we got to stand up, and we have to reclaim our country, because it's a good thing if you have Democrats and Republicans, but it's not a good thing if you have Republicans battling communist America-hating lunatics. So we need to do a course correction, and getting the message out about these things helps do that.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. I want to thank our guest, Mike Crispy. If you're interested, go to iacrl.org. That's the Italian American Civil Rights League.org. It's an all-volunteer nonprofit and help fight for our heritage and our history. We'll be right back in the Stone Zone.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
It is a great, great person, Roger Stone.
The Stone Zone. This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
Roger Stone, who's a very, one of the smartest political minds. Roger Stone was persecuted. People forget he's actually a brilliant political analyst.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. Our switchboard is lit up like a Christmas tree. A lot of reaction to this announcement by Mayor Zoran Mamdani releasing a map of the city's notable immigrant enclaves, but leaving out storied and historic Little Italy. If you're interested, once again, several people have asked, you can go to the Italian American Civil Rights League. That's the IACRL.org. For more information. They're planning a public protest. That is a all-volunteer nonprofit organization, and you can join. It's very inexpensive, but 100% of the money is used for a program. In the meantime, President Donald Trump is proving once again that unyielding strength gets results on the world stage aboard Air Force One, the president told reporters that Spain had come all the way back after he threatened to halt U.S. trade with that country over its refusal to meet NATO's defense spending expectations. Evidently, Spain's socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez had resisted NATO's 5% defense spending goals, claiming Spain's much lower target is enough. President Trump just wasn't buying it. At the NATO summit in Ankara, he called Spain a lost cause, and he directed the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to stop U.S. trade with Spain if Madrid continued to freeload. According to President Trump, the pressure worked literally within hours. He said Spain honored a request for significant payments that became far more generous. The Spanish government did not publicly detail what was agreed to, but Sanchez did not have a change of heart for no reason. He complied because President Trump twisted his arm. For decades, American taxpayers have carried NATO while wealthy European governments spent too little on their own defense and expected Uncle Sam to pick up the tab. All the while, those countries have never had our backs when we need them, and they resent our international influence. President Trump is changing that broken status quo. Spain tried to act calm about the whole situation, with Sanchez describing his conversation with President Trump as cordial and casual. But behind Sanchez's attempt to save face, the reality is simple. President Trump drew a line in the sand, and the Spanish blinked under pressure. This is America First foreign policy in action. No more blank checks, no more freeloading socialist allies, no more subsidizing spending sprees from socialist governments. Countries will pay their fair share or they'll suffer the consequences. It's notable that in his first term, President Donald Trump managed to collect $650 million in past due dues from our NATO allies. Yet, when we decided for our own reasons to strike Iran, a number of the NATO countries would not let us use the U.S.-built bases in their country or fly over their airspace. NATO is perhaps outdated. I've said it in this show. Perhaps it is time to reevaluate our membership. It made sense after World War II when they were economically devastated and we were still relatively prosperous. But now it's a serious question whether it makes sense because we support them, but they don't support us. Thank you for joining us today in the Stone Zone, where 5 days a week we talk about politics, and even more politics. We appreciate your tuning in, and we try to bring you the political news that you can't really get anyplace else. So until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.